Diane had always prided herself on being the kind of mother who noticed the little things. The way Eva's laughter could light up a room, or how her eyes sparkled with creativity whenever she spoke about her art. But lately, there was a shadow in those vibrant eyes that Diane couldn't quite decipher. It was as if a storm cloud loomed just behind the surface of her daughter's smile, a hint of something deeper lurking beneath the bright colors of her sketches. As Diane moved through the familiar terrain of her daughter's room, she could feel the weight of that uncertainty pressing on her chest, a knot of worry that twisted tighter with each passing day. Before we embark on this journey together, I urge you to subscribe to the channel. Your support is invaluable to us, and it's the only way we can share these important stories of love, resilience, and understanding with more people. So please hit that subscribe button now. Diane's hands brushed against various items scattered across Eva's desk. Paint tubes, half-finished canvases, and crumpled sketches that spoke of a world filled with dreams and imagination. Yet, it was the untouched corners of the room that piqued her curiosity. She bent down, her fingers skimming over the floor until they brushed against something unexpected, a sketchbook tucked away beneath the bed. Its corners were frayed, and the cover was worn, as if it had borne the weight of secrets too heavy to share. With a mix of trepidation and intrigue, Diane pulled the sketchbook free from its hiding place. She could feel the pulse of her heart quicken, an instinctive warning mingled with the desire to understand. As she flipped through the pages, her breath caught in her throat. The images that unfolded before her eyes were haunting and surreal, each drawing a window into a tumultuous landscape of emotion. Faceless figures loomed against stormy skies, their forms twisted and contorted, echoing a sense of desolation that chilled Diane to her core. As she continued to turn the pages, she felt an overwhelming sense of despair wash over her. Each stroke of the pencil seemed to speak of Eva's struggles, her loneliness, her fears, and the self-doubt that had woven itself into the fabric of her being. One drawing, in particular, struck Diane like a bolt of lightning. It portrayed a solitary figure standing on the edge of a cliff, engulfed by darkness, surrounded by swirling clouds that mirrored the chaos within. The raw emotion captured in that single image tore at Diane's heart, leaving her feeling as though she had stumbled upon a hidden truth that had been kept from her. In that moment, Diane realized that her daughter was not just creating art. She was expressing a pain that had gone unnoticed for far too long. The realization hit her like a wave, crashing over her with a force that left her breathless. Eva had been fighting battles that Diane had been oblivious to, and the weight of that knowledge settled heavily on her shoulders. The vibrant laughter that once echoed through their home now seemed like a distant memory, overshadowed by a silence that spoke volumes. Determined to bridge the chasm that had formed between them, Diane closed the sketchbook and took a deep breath. She knew that understanding Eva's pain was just the first step. She needed to find a way to reach out to her daughter, to let her know that she was not alone in this struggle. With a newfound resolve, Diane began to reflect on the moments they shared, the conversations that had drifted into the background, and the times she had missed the signs of Eva's turmoil. Diane thought back to the last parent-teacher meeting, where the teacher had mentioned Eva's withdrawal from her peers, her reluctance to participate in group activities, and her tendency to isolate herself. At the time, Diane had brushed off the concerns, attributing them to typical teenage angst. But now, confronted with the reality of Eva's inner world, she felt a profound sense of regret. How had she let it slip by unnoticed? How had she failed to see the storm brewing in her daughter's heart? The determination to rebuild their connection surged within her. Diane began to formulate a plan. She would create a space where Eva could express herself freely, a safe haven where they could reconnect through the language of art. She envisioned an art night where they could paint and draw together, sharing their thoughts and feelings without fear of judgment. It was a simple idea, but it held the potential to bridge the gap that had widened between them. With her heart set on this new endeavor, Diane gathered supplies: canvas, paints, brushes, and even some of Eva's favorite snacks. She wanted to create an atmosphere that was warm and inviting, a contrast to the isolation that seemed to have enveloped her daughter. She imagined laughter filling the room, colors splashing across the canvas, and the two of them sharing stories that would lead to deeper understanding. As she placed the items on the table, Diane couldn't shake the feeling of urgency. Time was slipping away, and she needed to act before the distance between them became insurmountable. The sketchbook lay open nearby, the drawings still hauntingly alive in her mind, each one a testament to Eva's struggles. Diane felt an overwhelming sense of responsibility, to not just be a mother who provided for her daughter, but to be a pillar of support through life's storms. When Eva finally returned home that evening, Diane's heart raced. She could sense the tension in the air, the unspoken words that hung between them like a fragile thread. As Eva entered her room, Diane took a deep breath and approached her gently. "Hey, sweetheart," she began, her voice soft yet steady. "I found something today that I'd like to share with you." The room was still, and for a moment, Diane felt as though she was standing at the edge of a precipice, ready to leap into the unknown. Would Eva be receptive? Would she shut down, pulling further away? But Diane knew that she had to try. This was more than a conversation. It was a lifeline, a bridge to understanding and healing. Eva looked up, her expression a mix of curiosity and uncertainty. "What did you find, Mom?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Diane gestured towards the sketchbook, her heart pounding as she spoke. "I found your sketchbook. I want you to know that it's okay to share what you're feeling. I'm here for you, no matter what." In that moment, Diane saw a flicker of vulnerability in Eva's eyes, a small crack in the armor she had built around herself. It was a glimmer of hope, a sign that perhaps, just perhaps, they could start to bridge the gap that had grown between them. The journey ahead would not be easy, but Diane was ready to walk beside her daughter, armed with love, understanding, and a commitment to rebuilding their bond, one brushstroke at a time. Eva hesitated, her gaze flickering between the sketchbook and her mother's earnest expression. A tempest of emotions swirled within her. Fear, confusion, and an unquenchable yearning to be understood. She had long since learned to guard her feelings, constructing walls high enough to keep out the world and its judgments. But standing there, faced with the warmth in Diane's eyes, those walls felt suddenly fragile, as if they might crumble with just a gentle nudge. "Can I see it?" Eva finally asked, her voice barely audible. The question hung in the air, taut with anticipation. Diane nodded, her heart fluttering with a mixture of hope and trepidation. She handed over the sketchbook, her fingers brushing against Eva's, a silent acknowledgement of the unspoken bond they shared. As Eva turned the pages, her breath caught in her throat. She recognized the drawings, each one a reflection of her innermost thoughts and feelings. The faceless figures, the stormy skies, the haunting loneliness. They were pieces of herself laid bare on the paper. A wave of shame washed over her as she realized that her mother had seen the depths of her despair. But alongside that shame was a flicker of relief. Perhaps this was the moment she had silently wished for, a chance to finally share her pain. "Mom," Eva whispered, her voice trembling. "I didn't mean for you to find these." The weight of her confession hung in the air, heavy with unspoken truths. Diane stepped closer, her heart aching at the sight of her daughter's vulnerability. "You don't have to hide from me, Eva," Diane replied gently, her voice steady. "I want to understand. I want to know how you're feeling." With those words, Diane took a leap of faith, reaching out to bridge the chasm that had seemed so insurmountable. The sketchbook remained open between them, a conduit for their shared emotions. Eva's fingers traced over one of the drawings, the solitary figure on the cliff. "That one," she began hesitantly. "It's how I felt when school started again this year. Everyone seemed to be moving on, making friends, while I felt like I was stuck." Her voice cracked, and Diane felt a pang deep within her chest. The admission was like a crack in a dam, and suddenly, Eva's emotions began to flow. "I don't really fit in anywhere. I try to talk to people, but I just freeze up. It feels like there's this invisible wall around me, and I don't know how to break through it." As she spoke, tears welled in her eyes, shimmering like stars caught in a storm. Diane's heart ached for her daughter, for the battles she had fought in silence. "Oh, Eva," she murmured, moving closer and wrapping her arms around her. "You're not alone in this. I can't imagine how hard it's been for you, but I want you to know that I'm here for you. We can face this together." In that embrace, Eva felt an unfamiliar warmth seep into her bones. It was as if the wall she had built began to crack, allowing light to seep through. "Really?" she asked, her voice muffled against her mother's shoulder. "You won't judge me?" "Never," Diane assured her, pulling back to look into her daughter's tear-streaked face. "You are my daughter, and I love you. We could talk about anything, even the hard stuff. That's what family is for." Eva considered her mother's words, her heart racing with a mix of hope and doubt. Could she really open up? Could she allow herself to be vulnerable without fear of rejection? The thought felt both liberating and terrifying. Yet, as she looked into Diane's eyes, she saw only acceptance and love reflected back at her, a safe harbor from the storms that had raged within. Can we draw together?" Eva asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Maybe it will help me talk." Diane's face lit up with a smile, a spark of excitement igniting within her. "Absolutely. Let's turn this room into our little art studio." She gestured toward the supplies she had gathered earlier, and Eva felt a wave of relief wash over her. They would create together, and in that act of sharing, perhaps they could also heal. As they set up, the atmosphere shifted. Laughter bubbled between them as Diane playfully teased Eva about her choice of colors. "You know, I think you might have a bit of a blue obsession," she laughed, holding up a tube of paint that was nearly empty. "I just really like blue," Eva shot back, a smile breaking through her earlier trepidation. The transformation was palpable. The tension that had hung heavy in the room began to dissipate, replaced by the warmth of connection. With each brushstroke across the canvas, they began to communicate in ways that words alone could not capture. Diane painted vibrant landscapes filled with sunlight, while Eva created a swirling cosmos filled with colors that seemed to reflect the chaos within her. As they worked side by side, Diane encouraged Eva to share the meanings behind her creations. "This one," Eva said, gesturing to a particularly dark piece filled with swirling shadows, "represents the anxiety I feel before school. It's like I'm being pulled into this void, and I don't know how to pull myself out." Diane nodded, her heart heavy with empathy. "That's so powerful, Eva. You're expressing something so real. But remember, there's always a way out of the darkness. We'll find it together." In that moment, a profound understanding blossomed between them. The art was not merely a means of expression. It became a bridge, a way to communicate feelings that had long been shrouded in silence. With each stroke of the brush, they painted not just images, but a new narrative of support and love, one that would allow Eva to feel less alone. As night fell and the room filled with the soft glow of fairy lights, Diane felt a surge of hope. They had embarked on a journey of healing, one that she knew would take time and patience. But as long as they continued to share their stories, on canvas and beyond, she believed they could weather any storm together. The night wore on, filled with quiet laughter and the sound of brushes gliding against canvas. And as they painted, Diane realized that this was just the beginning. They had a long way to go, but the first step had been taken, a step toward understanding, connection, and love. If this story is touching your heart, make sure to comment from where you are hearing this amazing story. Your engagement means the world, and together we can continue to spread messages of hope and resilience. In the days that followed, the art nights became a cherished ritual, a space where both Diane and Eva could explore not just their creativity, but also their feelings. Each session was a blend of laughter and heartfelt conversations. Diane would share stories from her own childhood, and in return, Eva would reveal the struggles she faced at school, her fears of inadequacy, and the weight of expectations she felt from both her peers and herself. "I wish I could just be like everyone else," Eva confessed one evening, her paintbrush hovering over a canvas. "Everyone seems so confident and sure of themselves. I feel like I'm just pretending." Diane put down her own brush and turned to face her daughter. "You know, Eva, everyone feels that way at some point. Even the people you think are confident have their own insecurities. What matters is how we navigate through those feelings." Eva looked thoughtful, her brow furrowed. But how do you do that? How do you keep going when everything feels so overwhelming? Diane contemplated her answer, drawing from her own experiences. It's about finding your own path. For me, it was art, writing, and talking to people I trusted. It's okay to seek help, to ask others for support when you're struggling. You don't have to carry the burden alone. Eva nodded slowly, absorbing her mother's words. It was a realization that felt both comforting and daunting. I guess I just need to be brave enough to ask for help, she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. Exactly, Diane said, reaching out to squeeze her hand. And remember, I'll always be here for you, no matter what. We're in this together. As the weeks passed, their bond deepened. The act of creating art together became a lifeline, a way for Eva to express her thoughts without the fear of being judged. She began to share more of her drawings, not just the darker pieces, but also the ones that revealed her hopes and dreams. One evening, as they painted under the soft glow of fairy lights, Eva surprised Diane by presenting her with a piece she had been working on in secret. It was a vibrant landscape, filled with bright colors and joyful figures dancing in a meadow. I call this freedom, Eva said, her voice filled with pride. Diane's heart swelled with emotion as she gazed at the artwork. It's beautiful, Eva. It captures such a sense of joy and hope. Eva beamed, her earlier hesitations fading away. I wanted to show you that I can create happy things too. I'm starting to believe that I can feel that way, even if it's hard sometimes. Diane reached out to hug her daughter tightly. You've come so far, and I'm so proud of you. Remember, it's okay to have ups and downs. What matters is that you keep creating and expressing yourself. As they continued to paint, together, the atmosphere in the room was filled with a sense of empowerment. Each brushstroke became a testament to Eva's journey, a reflection of her evolving understanding of herself and her emotions. The sketches that had once captured her darkest fears now began to transform into vibrant expressions of hope and resilience. One particularly rainy afternoon, Diane suggested they take their art outside, setting up a small easel on the porch. The rhythmic sound of raindrops falling created a soothing backdrop as they painted together, channeling the energy of the storm into their work. Eva chose to depict a figure standing strong against the rain, arms outstretched as if embracing the downpour. It's like I'm saying, bring it on. She laughed, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Diane smiled, her heart swelling with pride as she watched her daughter find strength in vulnerability. That's exactly the spirit, Eva. Life can be messy and overwhelming, but you have the power to stand tall through it all. As the weeks turned into months, the art nights evolved into a cherished tradition, a sanctuary where both mother and daughter could explore their emotions without fear. Diane noticed a shift in Eva. Her laughter came easier, her confidence blossomed, and the storm clouds that had once lingered in her eyes began to dissipate. Yet, there were still moments when the shadows crept back in, uninvited but familiar. One evening, after a particularly tough day at school, Eva sat silently at the table, her paintbrush hovering above a blank canvas. The silence was thick, charged with unspoken feelings. Want to talk about it? Diane asked gently, sensing the heaviness in the air. Eva glanced up, her eyes reflecting a mixture of frustration and sadness. I just feel so overwhelmed sometimes, like I'm trying to keep up with everyone, but it's exhausting. Diane moved closer, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. It's okay to feel that way. Remember, it's not about keeping up with others. It's about finding your own pace. You don't have to carry everything alone. Taking a deep breath, Eva set down her brush. I guess I just don't want to disappoint you or anyone else. I thought art was supposed to be my escape, but sometimes it feels like another pressure. Understanding flooded through Diane. She had seen the pressure of expectations weigh heavily on her daughter's shoulders. Art should be a refuge, not a burden, she said softly. Let's create something together right now, with no expectations, just pure expression. With that, they began to paint without any plan or vision. They splashed colors across the canvases, letting their emotions guide their hands. The act of creating became liberating, a cathartic release of all the pent-up feelings that had been swirling within them. As the colors blended and danced on the canvas, Diane watched Eva's face transform. The tension that had held her tightly began to ease, replaced by a sense of freedom. When they finally stepped back to admire their work, the canvases were alive with chaotic beauty, each stroke a testament to their journey together. "This is incredible," Eva exclaimed, her eyes wide with surprise. "It's messy, but I love it." Diane laughed, feeling a sense of joy swell within her. "Exactly. It's perfect because it's real. That's what art is all about, expressing what's in your heart without judgment." In that moment, Eva felt a shift within herself. The pressure to conform to others' expectations began to lift, replaced by a newfound understanding that her art was her own, a reflection of her unique journey. "I think I'm starting to get it, Mom," she said, a smile breaking ACR. OSS her face. "It's okay to create for me, not for anyone else." "Yes, sweetheart. That's the essence of true artistry," Diane replied, her heart swelling with pride. "And you're so talented in more ways than you realize." With each passing day, their connection deepened further. The conversations that flowed during their art sessions became a lifeline for both of them. They spoke about dreams, fears, and aspirations, uncovering layers of understanding that had once felt buried beneath the weight of silence. One evening, after a particularly productive art night, Diane broached a sensitive topic. "Eva, have you thought about sharing your art with others? Maybe at a local gallery or an online platform?" Eva's eyes widened in surprise, uncertainty flashing across her face. "Do you really think it's good enough? What if they don't like it?" Diane gently took her daughter's hands in hers. Art is subjective, and not everyone will understand it. But what truly matters is that it resonates with you. Sharing your art could be a beautiful way to connect with others who might feel the same way you do. Eva considered her mother's words, a mix of fear and excitement swirling within her. "I guess I never thought about it that way. It's just so personal to me. And that's what makes it powerful," Diane encouraged. "Your experiences, your emotions, they can inspire others. You have a voice, and it deserves to be heard." As the days passed, the seed of an idea began to take root in Eva's mind. Encouraged by her mother, she started to explore the possibility of sharing her artwork. The thought both thrilled and terrified her, but Diane's unwavering support became the beacon guiding her through the uncertainty. Finally, after much contemplation, Eva decided to create a small online portfolio. With adrenaline coursing through her veins, she spent hours curating her best pieces, poring over each selection with care. When she finally hit publish, a rush of exhilaration mixed with fear washed over her. What if no one sees it? What if they hate it? She fretted, pacing the room. Diane stepped in, placing a calming hand on her shoulder. "What matters is that you took the leap. You're sharing a part of yourself with the world, and that's something to be proud of, regardless of the outcome." Eva nodded, feeling a flicker of courage spark within her. "You're right. It's about sharing my truth, not seeking validation." Days turned into weeks, and slowly, the responses began to trickle in. Comments flooded in, praising her unique style and the emotions captured within her pieces. To her astonishment, she found herself connecting with others who had experienced similar struggles. People who resonated with her art and shared their own stories of pain and healing. As the positive feedback grew, so did Eva's confidence. The online community became a source of support, a reminder that she was not alone in her journey. Encouraged by this newfound connection, she began to explore local art shows and exhibitions, eager to share her work in person. One sunny Saturday, Diane accompanied Eva to her first local art fair. Nervous energy buzzed in the air as they set up her booth. The moment Eva unveiled her work, she felt a rush of pride. This was her journey, and she was ready to share it with the world. As people wandered by, stopping to admire her pieces, Diane watched her daughter glow with newfound confidence. Eva spoke to visitors with enthusiasm, sharing the stories behind her art. Each interaction was a reminder of how far she had come, a testament to the resilience, she had discovered within herself. Later that day, a woman approached their booth, drawn in by a particularly vibrant piece. "This is beautiful," she said, her eyes shimmering with appreciation. "It reminds me of my own struggles. Thank you for sharing this." Eva's heart swelled with emotion at the woman's words. "Thank you for saying that. It means a lot to know it resonates with someone else." In that moment, surrounded by the warmth of connection and understanding, Eva realized the true power of her art. It was more than just an escape. It was a bridge to others, a way to forge connections and find strength in shared experiences. As the day came to a close, Diane pulled Eva into a tight embrace. "I'm so proud of you, sweetheart. You've taken such brave steps, and it's only the beginning." Tears of joy glistened in Eva's eyes. "I couldn't have done this without you, Mom. Thank you for believing in me." And in that embrace, they both felt the weight of their journey, the struggles, the art nights, the vulnerability, transform into something beautiful. Together, they had navigated the storm, emerging stronger and more connected than ever before. With each passing day, Diane and Eva continued to create, support, and uplift each other. Their bond, forged through art and honesty, became an unbreakable thread weaving them together. They had discovered the beauty of resilience, the power of vulnerability, and the importance of love, proving that no matter how heavy the storms of life may feel, they could always find a way to weather them together.